Picture the moisturizer on your bathroom shelf right now. The one in the pump bottle, or maybe the tub. There's a good chance it says something on the label. Maybe Dermatologist Tested, maybe Dermatologist Recommended, maybe Clinically Proven, in clean, confident type. It might be the reason you picked it up in the first place. Here's what I want you to know before we go any further. That phrase might mean a single dermatologist tried the product on her own forearm one afternoon and reported no redness. That is technically a dermatologist test. It might mean a company sent samples to a clinic and paid for a patch test on 20 people. It might mean a paid consultant reviewed the ingredient list and signed off without a single person ever putting it on their skin. It might even mean the product failed its own testing and got the label anyway. That last one sounds impossible, I know. It isn't. Welcome to Soul Glow. I'm your host, and I've been working in this industry for decades, long enough to watch these marketing phrases get invented, spread, and become completely unmoored from anything they originally meant. Today, we're going to look at specific brands and products ranked from mildly frustrating to genuinely worth knowing. And by the end, you will have 4 concrete things you can actually do, because the goal here is never panic. It's clarity. Here is the fundamental problem. In the United States, the FDA does not define dermatologist tested. There is no standard it has to meet. No minimum number of participants, no requirement that the test produced a positive result. A company can use the phrase as long as some dermatologist was somehow involved in some form of testing. What that testing was, how large the study was, what the outcome was, none of that is on the label, and none of it is required to be. Hypoallergenic, by the way, is in the exact same boat. The FDA actually tried to regulate that term back in the 1970s, tried to require real substantiation, and a federal appeals court struck the regulation down in 1977. Nothing has replaced it. So when you see hypoallergenic and dermatologist tested side by side on a label, you are looking at 2 unregulated claims stacked on top of each other. That's not doubled protection, it's doubled marketing. A 2014 study published in the Journal of Allergy and Clinical Immunology looked at 187 personal care products marketed as hypoallergenic, dermatologist recommended, fragrance-free, or paraben-free, the exact kind of language we're talking about. 89% of those products contained at least one ingredient known to cause contact dermatitis. 11% contained 5 or more such allergens. The study's authors called on the FDA to regulate these terms. That was over a decade ago. The terms remain unregulated. Now, I want to be precise here because nuance matters. The FDA can and does take action against cosmetics that are actively mislabeled or that cause harm at scale. A brand that lies outright or whose product triggers thousands of adverse reactions can face regulatory consequences. The system isn't completely unmonitored, but it is reactive, not preventive. Cosmetics don't require pre-market approval or safety substantiation before they go on shelves. The label gets printed, the product ships, and problems get addressed after the fact, if and when they become impossible to ignore. I sometimes get asked whether Korean cosmetics regulation is stricter. The honest answer is, in some specific ways, yes, and in others, not necessarily. The Korean Ministry of Food and Drug Safety, the MFDS, maintains a prohibited ingredients list of over 1,000 substances, requires safety testing documentation before products reach shelves, and mandates that functional cosmetics, things that claim to improve wrinkles or lighten hyperpigmentation, go through additional clinical substantiation. That's a meaningful structural difference from the US system, where no pre-market approval is required for cosmetics at all. But Korean brands are subject to the same ownership consolidation and the same marketing pressures as Western brands, which we'll see in a moment. Made in Korea is not automatically a guarantee of anything, and I won't pretend it is. What it does mean is that the K-beauty tradition I grew up with, the habit of reading ingredient lists the way other people read nutritional labels, the layering philosophy that builds skin function gradually rather than chasing a single hero product, comes from a culture that has always treated formulation as a serious discipline. That mindset is worth borrowing, regardless of where your products come from. All right, let's get into the list. Number 8. The clinically proven language on most Olay products. We start here because Olay is everywhere, and because this particular phrase does a lot of heavy lifting on their packaging. Olay is owned by Procter & Gamble. It's one of P&G's flagship personal care brands, and it's been in the anti-aging space for decades. When you see clinically proven on an Olay product, and you will see it constantly, what does that actually mean? In the US, clinically proven has no regulatory definition either. It means the company ran some kind of clinical study. It doesn't specify the sample size, the duration, who funded it. Spoiler, usually the company itself. Whether it was peer-reviewed or what the control conditions were. A study of 40 people over 4 weeks, funded by Procter & Gamble, measuring consumer self-reporting of skin feels smoother. That can legally support the claim clinically proven. Some Olay products do have real, substantiated ingredients at real concentrations. Niacinamide and retinyl propionate have genuine published research behind them. The problem isn't that the ingredients are fraudulent. The problem is that clinically proven on the front of the box tells you nothing about whether the concentration in that specific product reaches the level studied in the research, or whether the study that supports the claim is rigorous. What to actually check? Look for the active ingredient and search for it independently. Niacinamide skin will get you more useful information than Olay Regenerist clinically proven. If a concentration isn't listed on the label, you generally can't assume it matches the research dose. Number 7. Neutrogena's dermatologist-endorsed positioning. Neutrogena has built its entire brand identity around dermatologist credibility. The number 1 dermatologist-recommended brand has been central to their advertising for years. What does number 1 dermatologist-recommended mean? It typically comes from surveys of dermatologists asking which brand they recommend most. But these surveys are often narrow in scope, may be conducted by or for the brand, and recommend most can mean recommending for any product in any category, not necessarily recommending every product across the line. It also says nothing about whether any specific formulation is effective. Now, the ownership detail here. Neutrogena was acquired by Johnson & Johnson in 1994. In 2023, Johnson & Johnson spun off its consumer health division, including Neutrogena and Aveeno, into a new company called Kenvue. And in November 2025, Kimberly-Clark announced it is acquiring Kenvue for approximately $48.7 billion, a transaction expected to close in the second half of 2026. So the brand that built its identity around dermatologist trust is now, pending deal close, migrating into the portfolio of the company best known for making paper towels and diapers. That's not an accusation of wrongdoing, it's just the kind of context that's useful to have. Neutrogena does make some products with well-documented ingredients. Their rapid wrinkle repair line uses retinol, which has a strong published research base for improving fine lines over time. The dermatologist recommended framing doesn't invalidate good ingredients, but it also doesn't substitute for checking those ingredients yourself. What to actually check? Separate the brand claim from the product. Neutrogena Rapid Wrinkle Repair. Retinol serum has retinol in it. That ingredient has real evidence. Neutrogena Hydro Boost has hyaluronic acid. That has evidence too. But the dermatologist endorsement is brand level credentialing, not product level. Number 6. Aveeno's Active Naturals Framework. Aveeno is also part of the Kenvue story. Same company, same pending acquisition. What I want to talk about with Aveeno specifically is the Active Naturals branding and the Naturals plus Dermatologist combination, which is a particularly powerful marketing pairing. Oat is Aveeno's signature ingredient, and this is genuinely worth examining. Colloidal oatmeal is an FDA-approved skin protectant at concentrations of 0.3 to 1%. It has real anti-inflammatory properties and is genuinely helpful for eczema and dry, irritated skin. There are legitimate dermatologist recommendations for colloidal oatmeal-based products. The issue is that Active Naturals gets applied across a very wide product line, implying a consistency of evidence that doesn't exist across every item. And natural in US cosmetic labeling has no regulatory definition at all. A product can use natural freely regardless of what else it contains. Aveeno's Calm Plus Restore line, for example, uses the Dermatologist Tested claim alongside oat as its hero ingredient. The oat is real. The Dermatologist Tested adds nothing you can verify. What to actually check? Colloidal oatmeal in Aveeno product is a legitimate reason to buy it if you have sensitive, eczema-prone, or easily irritated skin. Ignore Dermatologist Tested. Focus on whether colloidal oatmeal is in the ingredients and at what position in the list. Number 5. Eucerin's dermatologically proven packaging. Eucerin is owned by Beiersdorf, the German personal care company headquartered in Hamburg that also owns Nivea, Aquaphor, and La Prairie. Beiersdorf is a legitimate, research-oriented company. They have genuine in-house dermatological research capabilities, and several Eucerin products have substantiation I'd call more serious than average. But dermatologically proven is Eucerin's preferred phrase, and it's one step removed from dermatologist tested in ways that aren't always obvious. Eucerin's urea products, for example, their 5% urea repair range, have real published evidence. Urea is a well-understood humectant and keratolytic agent. The concentration is stated. The mechanism is clear. This is a case where the formula does what the marketing says. Same with their thiamidol-based anti-pigmentation line. Thiamidol is a proprietary ingredient that Beiersdorf has published peer-reviewed research on, and the European Commission has registered that research. That's a substantively different level of evidence than most clinically proven claims on drugstore shelves. The reason I'm including Eucerin isn't because the brand is dishonest. It's because dermatologically proven still sits on products across their range where the proof behind any individual product varies enormously. The phrase creates a halo effect across the brand. What to actually check? Eucerin's urea products and thiamidol formulations have more substantiation than most. Read the individual product ingredients rather than relying on the Eucerin umbrella. Beiersdorf's published research on thiamidol is publicly accessible if you want to read it. A Korean parallel worth knowing. CosRx makes a well-regarded snail mucin essence that has its own body of research on wound healing and barrier repair. The evidence base is narrower, but the brand is transparent about what's in it. Transparency about formulation isn't the exclusive province of European pharmaceutical companies. Number 4. CeraVe and what happened after L'Oréal bought it. CeraVe was founded in 2005 and was originally owned by Valeant Pharmaceuticals. It was genuinely developed with dermatologist input from the beginning. The ceramide and hyaluronic acid formulation came directly from that collaboration, and it showed. In 2017, L'Oréal acquired CeraVe, along with Acne-Free and Ambi, for $1.3 billion. L'Oréal is the world's largest cosmetics company. The acquisition was followed by a major marketing push, which accelerated massively in 2020 when skincare influencers, most famously Hiram Yarbrough, drove what Wikipedia describes as an 89% increase in CeraVe's global sales that year. Here's the thing, CeraVe's core formulations are genuinely good. Ceramides are well studied. Niacinamide is well studied. Hyaluronic acid is well studied. The moisturizing cream, the hydrating facial cleanser, the PM facial moisturizing lotion. These products have good ingredient stories. The developed with dermatologists positioning, however, describes how the original products were created. It's now a brand-level claim applied to the entire range, which has expanded considerably under L'Oréal ownership. And this is where I get a little pointed. L'Oréal is a marketing organization, a very sophisticated one. When CeraVe pivoted from a pharmacy recommendation to a social media phenomenon, the developed with dermatologists credentialing became advertising infrastructure for a billion-dollar brand refresh. The good ingredients didn't change, but the phrase is doing different work now than it was in 2005. What to actually check? CeraVe's barrier repair products, the moisturizing cream in the tub, the healing ointment, have earned their reputation. The developed with dermatologists claim on newer line extensions is less grounded than on the original products. Check the ingredient list. Ceramides. Look for ceramide NP, AP or EOP, niacinamide and hyaluronic acid in the first half of the list are the reasons to buy CeraVe, not the label claim. Number 3. La Roche-Posay's thermal spring water claims. La Roche-Posay. Let me start with who this is. La Roche-Posay is owned by L'Oréal, specifically by L'Oréal's Active Cosmetics division, which also owns Vichy and SkinCeuticals. So we have one parent company, L'Oréal, owning CeraVe, La Roche-Posay, Vichy, and SkinCeuticals simultaneously. All of them carry some version of dermatological or clinical credentialing. All of them are, ultimately, L'Oréal products. La Roche-Posay markets heavily to people with sensitive, reactive skin, and it leans hard on its thermal spring water origin story. The thermal spring water in La Roche-Posay products is real, and it does contain selenium and other minerals. Whether those minerals, in the concentrations present in a face mist or moisturizer, produce meaningful skin benefits beyond what water alone would provide is genuinely uncertain. The anti-inflammatory properties of selenium are real in research contexts. Whether the amount in a spritz translates to the same outcome is a different question. The Dermatologist Tested and Recommended by Dermatologists claims across their line face the same structural problem as everything else on this list. What La Roche-Posay does very well, their sunscreens. The Anthelios range uses UV filters, including the filter Mexoryl, which is proprietary to L'Oréal, that have been rigorously tested for safety and efficacy. French UV filters have undergone more extensive regulatory review in the EU than many of their equivalents available in the US. Their sunscreen SPF claims are substantiated in the ordinary regulatory sense. I recommend their sunscreen products because sunscreen is a category where the claims are actually regulated. What to actually check? La Roche-Posay sunscreens, including Anthelios, have substantiated SPF claims. The rest of the line, same advice as always. Look at the ingredient list, not the brand positioning. The thermal spring water origin story is genuine. Its clinical significance in finished products is uncertain. Number 2. The hypoallergenic and dermatologist tested stack on baby products. This is where it gets personal for me because this is where the gap between the label and the reality is most likely to affect people who are genuinely trying to do the right thing. Many parents and many of you buying products for grandchildren or for your own aging, reactive skin specifically seek out hypoallergenic dermatologist-tested personal care products because you believe it means something protective. You're not being naive, you're responding to language that was designed to make you feel exactly that way. The 2014 study I mentioned earlier focused specifically on products marketed toward children. 89% of those hypoallergenic dermatologist recommended children's products contained at least one contact allergen. Many of the major brand players in the baby care space, including products from Johnson's, Aveeno Baby, and others, carry these label claims while containing fragrances, preservatives, and plant extracts that are known sensitizers for a meaningful portion of the population. Johnson's Baby was part of Kenvue's portfolio. The J&J spin-off and pending Kimberly-Clark acquisition applies here too. Aveeno Baby is in the same corporate family. This isn't a claim that these products are dangerous for most babies or most adults. Many people use them without issue. The point is that the label hypoallergenic dermatologist tested does not mean what people assume it means, and in a category where people are specifically choosing based on that language, the gap matters. What to actually check? For sensitive skin, yours or a child's, a short ingredient list is more meaningful than a label claim. Look for products with fewer than 15 to 20 ingredients. Fragrance, listed as parfum or fragrance, and essential oils are the most common contact allergen triggers. Methylisothiazolinone and formaldehyde-releasing preservatives like DMDM, hydantoin are worth learning to recognize. Here is where I genuinely recommend Vanicream, which is made by an independent, privately held company called Pharmaceutical Specialties Inc. in Rochester, Minnesota. It was founded in 1975 by two hospital pharmacists who were specifically asked by dermatologists to create a better option for sensitive skin patients. The company manufactures to pharmaceutical-grade good manufacturing practice standards, even though their products are classified as cosmetics. They hold National Eczema Association seals on their core products. And they've never been acquired by a conglomerate. Their dermatologist-recommended claim has more traceable origin story than most, even if the phrase itself is, technically, still unregulated. Number 1. Dove. And what dermatologist recommended means in the context of a brand with hundreds of products. Dove is owned by Unilever, not Beiersdorf, not L'Oreal. Unilever, the Anglo-Dutch multinational that also owns Vaseline, Simple, REN, Clean Skincare, Pond's, and dozens of other personal care brands. Dove occupies an interesting position. Their original beauty bar really did represent a formulation shift away from traditional soaps toward a lower pH, milder format. That was a meaningful and real difference. For decades, dermatologists genuinely recommended the original Dove bar for patients who needed a mild cleanser. The problem is that recommended by dermatologists, or variations of it, now appears across a vast range of Dove products, body washes, face washes, serums, hair care, deodorants. The dermatologist credentialing that was attached to the original bar has been used as brand equity to underwrite an entire product line. Dove also occupies an interesting position on fragrance. Many Dove products contain fragrance. Fragrance is, by a wide margin, the most common cause of contact dermatitis from cosmetics. Yet, sensitive skin and dermatologist recommended appear on products in their range that contain it. I want to be specific. I'm not saying Dove body wash is harmful for most people. Most people tolerate most fragrance without a noticeable reaction. But if you have reactive skin and you're choosing Dove because of the sensitive and dermatologist language, you need to know that those words do not guarantee the product is free of fragrance or common sensitizers. This is also, incidentally, an issue with some Korean brands. Innisfree, which is owned by Amora Pacific, a Korean beauty conglomerate, markets to sensitive skin while using plant extracts and fragrance components that can trigger reactions. The ownership consolidation happens in Korea too. Amora Pacific owns Innisfree, Etude, Laneige, Sulwhasoo, and others. LG Household and Healthcare owns the Face Shop, OUI, some 37 Degrees, and the history of Who. The K-beauty category is not a monolith, and the same brand equity dynamics apply. What to actually check? If you have sensitive or reactive skin and are specifically seeking a fragrance-free option, sensitive skin and dermatologist recommended are not reliable filters. Check the ingredient list for fragrance or parfum. For a genuine fragrance-free gentle cleanser, Vanicream Gentle Facial Cleanser and CeraVe Hydrating Cleanser are both short, clearly labeled, and fragrance-free. A Korean option I trust is the COSRX Low pH Good Morning Cleanser. It's pH appropriate for skin. The ingredient list is short and readable, and the formulation is transparent. Okay, 4 things. Not a panic list. These are habits. 1. Read the ingredient list, not the front of the package. The front of a package is advertising. The ingredient list is information. Cosmetic companies are required to list ingredients in descending order of concentration. If fragrance appears in the first 10 ingredients, that product contains a meaningful amount of fragrance. If it appears near the end, it's present in a smaller amount. Either way, now you know it's there. This is, by the way, a habit I grew up with. Korean skincare culture has always treated ingredient literacy as the foundation, not a specialty skill. Understanding what's in a product isn't being difficult. It's knowing what you're putting on your skin. 2. Learn 4 or 5 ingredient names that matter for your specific concerns. You don't need to memorize a chemistry textbook. If you have reactive or sensitive skin, the ones worth learning are fragrance or parfum. Same thing, always worth checking for. Methyl isothiazolinone, a preservative that causes contact allergy in a proportion of people. DMDM-hydantoin, a formaldehyde-releasing preservative, also a contact sensitizer for some. And essential oil, followed by any plant name. Plant extracts are common allergens and are sometimes marketed as natural alternatives to synthetic fragrance, but they cause reactions too. If you have mature skin and are interested in anti-aging actives, learn these 3: retinol or retinoids, niacinamide, and peptides. If any of these are listed, find the published evidence for that specific ingredient, not the brand's marketing, the actual research. 3. Apply products by gently patting, not rubbing. This one sounds small, but it isn't. Over years of tugging and rubbing, especially around the eyes and on the neck, where skin is thinner, mechanical irritation compounds. This is something I genuinely learned from watching how Korean skincare application is traditionally taught. Pat, don't rub. Press serums and essences in with the flat of your hands. It's more effective delivery for thin textured products, and it's better for aging skin. 4. If you have a reaction to a product, report it. The FDA's Cosmetic Adverse Event Reporting through MedWatch exists for exactly this reason. Most people don't use it. Most people just stop using the product and move on. That's understandable, but it's also how brands keep using the same formulations while continuing to carry the Dermatologist Tested label. Your report is data. It matters. Here's what I want you to walk away with. Dermatologist Tested is not a lie exactly. It's a phrase that can describe almost anything, from a serious multi-site clinical trial to one doctor patching a product on their own hand. The label doesn't tell you which one you're getting, and nothing requires the brand to tell you. That can feel frustrating, but it's also genuinely fine, because the information you need isn't hidden behind corporate secrecy. It's on the ingredient list, right there on the bottle. You've just been trained to look at the front of the package instead of the back. The brands we talked about today, Olay, Neutrogena, Aveeno, Eucerin, CeraVe, La Roche-Posay, the baby product category, Dove, aren't all the same. Some have products with real, meaningful formulations. Some have genuine research behind specific ingredients. But none of the dermatologist tested or dermatologist recommended language on their packaging tells you which products are which. You know what does? The ingredient list. And now you know what to check. That's Soul Glow. Until next time, take good care of your skin and take good care of yourselves.